Hey everyone, it's Ivan, kitpatch.com, out here for another gear review, and today talking about this guy right here, which is the Keith Titanium Canteen Mess Kit. Broad strokes, what is it? It is a modern take on the old USGI military canteen mess kit. So with that, we have our actual canteen, single wall, grade 1, super pure titanium, dishwasher safe. The cap actually has a seal on there. It is completely watertight. It will not leak as long as you put this on correctly. There's also a little ring there if you want to lash this so you maybe don't lose it, I guess. And one thing I'll talk more on the idea of single wall, double wall in a minute. And then also inside here, and I will say this nests kind of tight inside this carrying case, but it's fine, it works well. We have our actual canteen cup, and then there's also a separate little pocket for our lid for said canteen cup. Again, grade 1 titanium, all of this stuff, and this handle pops up. That gets, I should put it on correctly, that gets really important when you are boiling water and stuff in there. But yeah, it is, like I said, a modern take on the old USGI canteen mess kit, which, quick note to that, I was never a fan of. On the one hand, the issued canteens in the Marine Corps, you go to supply, get one. It was not brand new. And you know what? Someone used some sort of grape flavored drink mix from MRE in there probably 12 years ago. Still tasted like it is disgusting. You could never get that taste out. And usually you just had to throw them away, go into the surplus store, buy a brand new one. Now you have your canteen that's usable. This obviously doesn't do that. We also, with the advent of MREs, generally didn't use a canteen cup because everything, just put your meal in there, MRE heater, you're good to go. And usually in the field, you couldn't have any type of fire or anything like that anyway, so you would never boil water or do any of those things. Fast forward, end of 2001, in the desert of Afghanistan in the winter, and we actually used these a bunch. Granted, they were steel, a little bit heavier, but we actually used them. Largely just cooking over MRE trash fires. If you want to check out some of that, you can check out my float tapes, but ended up using them. After that, after getting out of the Marine Corps, never really messed with them until not that long ago. Life filming in the backcountry, it's always heavy because there's like 10 pounds of camera gear before you even step off with anything else. So places you can actually save weight start to matter, and started looking into some titanium stuff. And Keith Titanium, pretty much OG, they've been in a long time. Been doing a really good job making all kinds of different titanium stuff to include this set. And what appealed to me is, one, having something that actually nests inside here. I think just space savings, and already carrying water. Like, why not carry it in a canteen shape? And since then, I've put in a lot of time with it. This thing has done some serious work. As you can see, I've definitely used it largely over like twig fires. I have used it some over just like isobutane stoves. Works great. The footprint actually, like, it lends itself to most stoves as far as being able to sit flat. Depending on some, like some of the ones where there's just 3 legs coming out, you just have to pay attention how you're setting it so that it is stable. And of course, the stove itself needs to be level. My stick stove I've been using a bunch, which is the Stoker by Uberleben. This actually fits really well. Basically diagonal across, like on top of the little grate. Really nice and steady and stable on there. And yeah, I put in work with this thing. One time, I guess it was last season, a buddy and his fiance came up for a elk hunt. So went out there with them, go do some camping and scout for elk. I was predator hunting. We're out there though. Drove down there wearing like flip-flops that first day. It was beautiful. Out in, I guess down by the Hell's Canyon in Idaho. That night, set up my TP, cool, going to bed. Woke up that night when my TP center pole collapsed under snow load, like 3 inches of wet, heavy snow. I then ended up going, climbed in for the last couple hours, tried to sleep in my sweet minivan. So there we were on this mountaintop, probably like 8,000 feet, and we had a good 3 inches of snow. I had not switched my tires over to my snow tires yet. So there we were stuck. We did not anticipate being stuck up there. I didn't need to be back to my boys to pick them up for another 4 days. Wasn't that concerned about it. Was more concerned about water because we were going to go back to town like the day after or something like that. But if it snowed one day, may very well snow the next. You never know what you're going to get in the mountains. So ended up spending hours with this thing, just melting snow, filling every available container because we didn't know what was going to happen with the weather. And beyond that, I've obviously used it on a number of other backpacking trips. Just again, largely melting snow, or sometimes just either melting snow and boiling water, because morning coffee, that's a real thing. And yeah, just put in a lot of time with both of these. Observations from use, honestly, the stuff works great. Pretty lightweight. I'll give you those specs and stuff in a minute. One thing I will say, again, largely dependent on what you are making water over, like melting snow and stuff. If you keep this off, which usually you are because constantly refilling this thing, depending on how smoky your fire is, your water can end up kind of tasting like smoke. Is it going to kill you? Probably not before all the other lifestyle choices you're making. So kind of a non-issue other than having some smoky water, depending on, again, what you are boiling over. I will say neither of these hold flavor, which is great. You can also just wash them out really easy if you end up putting drink mix, something like that in there. This being single walled, it cuts both ways. I like it because if for whatever reason I don't have this, you can actually crack this. Do not do it with it tight, but you can actually crack this or just leave it open. And in an emergency, you could either melt snow or boil water inside of this because it's single wall. What does that mean? Well, it also means it's single wall. So when you go to touch this thing, it's going to be screaming hot, about the temperature of boiling water. It'll take a while to cool back down. Again, 6 one way, half dozen the other. I like it more than anything as a redundancy if I don't have this, or for some reason I need to use this to actually boil water in because it is single walled. What else? Well, I guess I'll talk about the bag that this comes in, everything nests inside. I'll go ahead and start with this works. It does a decent job. It's probably my least favorite thing about the set. Let me explain. First of all, it is canteen shaped, both the mess kit as well as the canteen. So that's real. And this becomes necessary because largely if you're carrying a backpack, when they make water bottle holders, usually built into your pack, they are shaped for either a Nalgene, circular, or oftentimes something even smaller than diameter of a Nalgene, meaning a canteen won't fit in there. So depending on your pack belt, like your waist belt, this can actually attach to the waist belt, which is how I'll usually use it if I'm carrying it. Sometimes, honestly, depending on the pack, like if it has water bottle holders that this won't fit in, I'll just use those and throw this straight into the main compartment of my pack. But like I said, totally usable. And this actually comes with a shoulder strap. So if you're just out on a hike, you can throw this thing over your shoulder and carry your canteen like that. Not the most comfortable for extended periods. And one thing I actually don't like about it is the hooks that snap in here and here. They spin freely. Why in the world would I want them to spin freely? It's the same as like a not having a anti-QD or anti-rotation QD. Like I don't want that in my life. I want to be able to hook this on and know that whatever way the strap is, that's how it stays, and this stays oriented so things don't get twisted, if that makes sense. But this does a pretty good job. There's enough room to where when this comes over and snaps, it's secure. It still has enough room to undo that. There's also this draw cord, which I guess you would use it if you're not using this maybe. I've never found the need for it. I usually just use that enclosure there. And I do appreciate that there is a pocket for the lid in there. Things I don't care for beyond just that shoulder strap or how it hooks and attaches there is this could be better. What do I mean by that? Think about the custom knife maker. Makes this incredibly beautiful knife, and then it looks like a middle school elective project when it comes to the sheath. Knife makers are not usually sheath makers. Consequently, people that make amazing titanium stuff aren't usually in the business of making nylon stuff. And there's a lot of really talented people in this world, to include using really amazing new materials. And this is honestly just kind of clunky and heavier than it needs to be with this old style pals setup with these buttons that weave through and stuff like that. It could just be done better and lighter, probably by someone that actually does nylon stuff and not titanium. I get it. I'm nitpicking. Just observations from use. As far as volume, stuff like that, this holds 1100 milliliters. This 700 milliliters, I will say you're going to want it a little lower than that, especially if you get it to a boil. Otherwise, it will boil over. And weight-wise, you're looking at, I think, about 5.5 ounces and about 4.5 ounces. Price-wise, generally, you can get it cheaper than MSRP. MSRP is like $160. Oftentimes, you get it on Amazon on sale, around $115, $120. Is it a lot of money? Yes, if you're not going to use it and you don't really care about the features. And when I say features, you can go ahead and just buy a USGI Canteen mess kit, 100%. And you'll get a gross plastic canteen and you'll get a steel canteen cup. They work. They are not the same. One, you'll pay for it in weight, and the other one, just don't ever put any type of flavoring, salts, anything in there, or it'll taste like a gross version of that forever. This won't do that. It's also lighter. Is it worth the money? Totally depends on you, how much time you spend out in the backcountry. And for me, again, a big part of the draw with this is this being single wall titanium. It's just a redundancy. Another vessel that I can boil water in if for whatever reason I can't boil it in this, didn't bring it, gets damaged, hole in it. I don't know how that happened. Something along those lines. Again, just a redundancy. And so, as I mentioned, I use it a bunch. I appreciate it. It works well. Limitations being, how does it fit? So largely you're going to either put it on a pack belt, something like that, in my experience, or just throw it in your main pack if you don't need to drink from this, while moving. Overall, really solid product. Actually stopped by their booth at SHOT Show 2024. Really cool stuff there. This is kind of the tip of the iceberg with respect to some of the stuff they make, to include some really amazing backcountry or overland coffee sets, things like that. Really cool stuff. But there'll be a link down below if you want to check it out. And as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.